filed for full custody after finding out my ex-wife let her drug-addicted boyfriend near our kids. My parents are defending and taking her side while calling me cold-hearted. Hi, everyone. So I recently did something and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but everybody is really upset with me for it. It wouldn't usually matter, but even my parents are not with me on this, so I'm here for some clarity. So this is about me and my ex-wife. I will refer to her as Tara. She and I are both 30 and we have 2 kids together. We have a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. However, we have been separated for 2 years now and she has partial custody, but the kids only visit her on the weekend since that's what she wanted. We got married when we were 22 after dating throughout college, and it was a blissful time initially. But then, it was the monotony that started getting to us, and we started falling out of love. We just grew apart. I guess we started fighting a lot after our daughter was born and we couldn't bring ourselves to agree on anything at all. She wanted something different from life, and I really didn't want the same thing as her. We just realized that we were very different as people and we couldn't make it work anymore. We had been trying our best, for the sake of our kids, but we were fighting so often that it wasn't really good for them either. I suggested marriage counseling towards the very end, as a last-ditch effort to make it work, but she declined and said that she would much rather just get divorced than draw it out, and I thought it was fair. So, I work in the catering industry and have a business of my own, and she is a high school teacher. I earn significantly more than her, so of course she gets alimony, as well as child support, even though she only has the kids for the weekend and can very well support them, but her lawyer managed to work out a good deal for her and I couldn't back out of it. It's been 2 years and we function a lot better now, as parents, since we don't have to live with each other. I wouldn't say that the divorce was an ugly one, but it was still a divorce, so it wasn't great either. But we have continued to co-parent our children, and so far, everything has been going great. Tara and I don't really keep in touch. We only talk to each other when we have to discuss something with regard to the kids, but other than that, we have nothing to say to each other. The only time we get to interact is when I drop off the kids at her place or when she drops them back off at mine. That's pretty much the only time we meet each other, and we're both fine with that. And for the holidays, we try to spend some time together for the sake of the kids, but that's about it. So overall, I would say that we have been on decent terms, and I didn't think there was anything going wrong so far because the kids seemed happy and content. But then, around 2 weeks ago, Tara told me that she wanted to talk to me in the middle of the week. I didn't know what to expect, but then she told me that she wanted to discuss child support and wanted to increase it. She said that before she started the renegotiation officially, she wanted to talk to me in person and get it out of the way, so I wouldn't be taken by surprise. And it was a good move, I guess, because I really was taken by surprise when she told me that she wanted to increase the amount, because as far as I was concerned, I think it was more than generous, because not only was she a working woman herself, she was also getting alimony and child support. I think that's a fair amount of money that she was receiving from me, and it was almost 25% of my salary that I gave to her every month, so I didn't see any reason as to why she would want more. We met for lunch to discuss this, and she told me that she was just struggling financially because she was thinking about quitting her job and joining her friend in her startup business and actually putting her marketing degree to some use. So for that, she needed to increase the child support because she didn't want them to suffer for her own sake. The startup was not quite profitable yet, so she was going to receive quite a low salary. It was still in its beginning stages, but she was fine with it for herself. She said that she only wanted the kids to be provided for and taken care of, and it wouldn't be possible if she started skimping out because of her own shortcomings, due to the change in her career. I could understand where she was coming from, but I couldn't wrap my head around it because no matter how low her salary was, she was still receiving alimony and child support. Besides, my kids only spent the weekend with her and it was just 2 days out of the whole week. Had it not been for her amazing lawyer, she probably wouldn't even have been able to get child support out of me for just 2 days of the week. Everything else was taken care of for them. Anyway, I bought them whatever they needed and paid for them to go to school and everything. So technically, there was no need for me to pay child support anyway, but I was doing it out of the goodness of my heart, because I knew that Tara didn't make as much money as me and I wanted to be able to help her out. But increasing the child support was out of the question for me. I was already helping her out more than I was required to, and that should have been good enough for her. So I told her, as politely as I could, that I could not increase the amount of child support because anyway, it was more than what she required, and if she couldn't make it work, then it was on her. I reminded her that she was also receiving alimony and it's quite a lot of money, so there was no reason for her to ask for more. Instead of taking it kindly, she started getting mad at me and told me that I was being selfish. She insisted that this was just for the kids and I needed to think about them before coming to a decision like this. Got into a bit of an argument there, and we couldn't bring ourselves to agree whether she needed more child support or not. I kept telling her the kids only spend a weekend at her place, and that's just 2 days, so she doesn't really need that much money unless she is not even willing to take care of them for 2 days. That's a different story altogether, and she said that it was very insulting that I was insinuating that she didn't care about our kids and didn't want to spend money on them, but she reminded me that she earned less than me. We just kept bickering and it was clear that we were getting nowhere, so we decided to put our conversation on hold and I went back home feeling really annoyed. The only reason I had even agreed to the terms of the alimony and child support the first time around was because her lawyer had a great deal on the table for her, and my parents were the ones who made me agree to it because they said that the mother of my children, and whether I liked it or not, I owed it to her to support her because I made a lot more money than her and this is the least that I could do for her. So I had no other choice but to accept it because my parents literally guilt-tripped me into doing it. But this time, I didn't tell my parents about any of it at all because I was sure that if I told them, they were just going to do the same thing again. They, in particular, were very attached to Tara when she was married to me. It's no secret that my parents had always wanted a daughter, but instead, I was born. I was treated well enough when I was a kid, but when I saw how excited they were when I got married, I knew instantly that was something slightly weird about the whole thing. They would keep calling Tara the daughter that they never had, and it was meant to be endearing, but it just made me feel weird because I knew their history and I knew that it was slightly disturbing. They were even more disappointed than me when we started getting divorced, and during the process, they were on her side and constantly kept checking on her without bothering me. Even after the divorce, they kept in touch with her, and even though I didn't like it, it didn't matter to them. The only reason I haven't cut my parents out of my life yet is because they are really old and I am their only child, no matter how they treat Tara, so I can't abandon them. They might not have one, but I do have a conscience and I can't handle it. So it's tough, but I try to make it a point to see them at least once a month. However, I don't think that's going to happen anymore because they are being jerks about this whole thing. But anyway, coming back to what happened after I had the discussion with Tara. So that day, after that lunch, I could sense that something was really not adding up here. In spite of getting so much money from me, she still wanted more, and I couldn't make sense of it. So I decided to start snooping because I knew that there was something that she was hiding from me. There just had to be. I decided to start by combing through her social media, and I was quite meticulous about it. I went through her entire life, and it wasn't really difficult since she has a very restricted social media presence. She had like 150 followers, and I went through each and every one of them. It was mostly just friends, family, and colleagues, but then I started finding random guys. There were around 10 of them, and I figured that must have been her date from the past couple of months or something because I had heard from a couple of my friends that she was going out with other guys again. Only one of the profiles really stood out for me because that guy was really young. He couldn't have been older than 22, and it was very obvious from his profile that he was definitely into some shady stuff. For starters, he had a bunch of photos on his account of a joint in his hand and smoke covering his face. It was aesthetic and everything, but I didn't really have Tara pegged as someone who would be into this because she and I really aren't hip and stuff. Besides, she has 2 kids, so I don't think that going out with a drug addict was a good idea for her. I could also tell that this guy was trouble because he just looked the type, and I did not get a good vibe from him. I don't mean to say that everybody who looks like him is the same, but I could tell from his profile that he was really proud of the fact that he was a junkie. His profile screamed trouble, and I cannot emphasize that enough. Tattoos all over his body, bragging about drugs and stuff, and in one of the photos, I swear he had a rifle, and he was showing it off. You guys know exactly the type of person that I'm talking about. So that image really stuck out in my head, and I could tell that there was something about him. Tara had no business following a guy like this, and she had even commented on a bunch of photos with heart eye emojis. I decided to go deeper and forward that profile to a friend of mine whose uncle is in the force because I just had a feeling that there was something shady about this guy. We will call him Sean. A couple of days after I had forwarded that profile to my friend, I was told that his uncle had told him that this guy had been brought in 2 years ago for aggravated assault and battery and had been let out last year. Apparently, Sean had gotten into a fight with a dealer and had attacked the other guy with a fire extinguisher in the stomach. Thankfully, the other guy wasn't badly hurt, but somebody on the street saw it go down and called the police. My friend's uncle had remembered it specifically because he had been the one to make the arrest and process Sean. I was right about him all along. He was a dangerous guy, and I didn't like the fact that Tara had something to do with him, but I didn't know about it. So I decided to take a huge risk because of a feeling that I had in my gut and decided to show the least incriminating picture of Sean to my kids, to ask them if they had seen this guy before. They hesitated for a bit, but after I told them that they would not get in trouble for telling me the truth, they seemed to open up and told me that they knew this guy very well. It was really scary because they told me that apparently, this was Tara's, a new boyfriend, and they had known him for the last 6 months. Not only that, but Tara had given them very specific instructions not to tell me about any of this, because otherwise, she would make sure that my kids got into really bad trouble. And she had scared them well because even while telling me about all of this, they seemed very paranoid about it. She had apparently threatened to show up at their school and have them expelled, and even said that she would have them sent to an orphanage if they tattled on her. She said that not only would she hate them forever, even I would never forgive them for being terrible children.